Above the blue curve of Earth, a silent shadow drifted into view. It was not a moon, not a station, but a fleet, an alien armada stretching across the stars like a metallic storm. Their ships were sleek, cold, and deadly, their hulls glowing faintly with alien symbols that pulsed like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. From the lead vessel, Admiral Xylar watched Earth spin slowly beneath him. He smirked, confident and proud. To him, this small blue planet was nothing more than another weak world ready to kneel. His voice echoed through the command deck, calm yet sharp. "They call themselves humans," he said. "Primitive, divided, defenseless. Begin the blockade." Engines roared as the alien ships took position. Around the world, satellites blinked and died one by one. Communication networks collapsed. Power grids failed. For billions of people on Earth, the sky filled with glowing dots, ships so large they cast shadows over cities. Panic followed. Governments screamed for answers. News channels broadcast the same message again and again. Unidentified fleet has entered orbit. People ran into the streets, watching in silence, their fear mixing with awe. Far beneath the chaos, inside a secret underground base hidden under the Nevada desert, a group of humans watched everything on holographic screens. They didn't panic. They didn't even look surprised. General Rhodes, an older man with a calm, hard stare, stood with his hands behind his back. "So they've finally come," he said quietly. Around him, soldiers and scientists exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Elena Ward, one of the few people who knew the truth, turned toward him. "Do you think it's time?" she asked. Rhodes gave a small nod.
"Not yet."
"Let them believe we are weak." Up in orbit, the alien fleet prepared for their first strike. Admiral Xylar leaned forward, studying the planet's surface. He admired its oceans, its clouds, its beauty, but beauty meant nothing to conquerors. "Target their defense grid," he ordered. "Destroy anything that fights back." Beams of white energy tore through the void, hitting satellites and defense stations. Explosions bloomed silently in space, bright and distant. Within minutes, Earth's outer defenses were gone. The Admiral laughed. "So this is Earth's strength?" he said mockingly. His officers joined in, certain the victory was already theirs. But something strange happened. A few of their ships, just a few, suddenly vanished from radar. No explosion, no distress call. They were simply gone. The Admiral frowned. "Check the sensors," he ordered. Maybe a cloaking glitch. His crew worked quickly, but the readings made no sense. It was as if space itself had swallowed those ships whole. "Impossible," Xylar muttered. Yet somewhere deep inside him, a small spark of unease began to grow. Down on Earth, in the Nevada base, alarms flashed softly. A signal had just activated, an ancient code buried deep within the planet's systems. Dr. Elena looked at the screen in disbelief. "General," she whispered, "it's starting on its own." Rhodes stepped closer. On the monitor, strange wave patterns appeared, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. "It's waking up," he said. "The signal buried beneath the mantle, it's alive." Outside, across the world, compasses began to spin wildly. Energy surges rolled through the crust. Strange lights flickered in the night sky, lines and shapes forming symbols no human had seen before. People pointed their cameras upward, recording glowing circles hovering over oceans and deserts. Scientists tried to explain it as atmospheric distortion, but deep down, everyone felt it, something ancient was stirring. In orbit, Admiral Xylar's ships were scanning the planet when the first energy pulse hit them. It wasn't an attack, at least not one they could understand. A blue wave of light spread outward from the Earth, passing through the ships like wind through smoke. Their systems flickered, a few vessels lost power and drifted helplessly. "Report," Xylar barked. "What was that?" The alien engineers hesitated. "Admiral, the energy signature doesn't match any known weapon. It's older." "Older?" Xylar repeated, his tone filled with disbelief. "Explain yourself," the officer swallowed. "The signal carries a frequency that predates our star charts, Admiral. It's not human. It's ancient." Back on Earth, Dr. Elena stared at her monitors. "It's broadcasting," she said. "The signal is reaching beyond our solar system." General Rhodes narrowed his eyes. "Then it's calling something." For the first time, even he looked uneasy. Above the planet, the Admiral's main cruiser began to tremble. Deep within its scanners, strange readings appeared, massive structures moving beneath Earth's oceans. "Admiral, I'm detecting something in the Pacific," a voice said. "It's huge, metallic, and it's rising." Zylar leaned forward, his confidence fading. "Impossible. There's nothing on this planet capable of that." But then the sea began to boil. From the depths of the dark ocean a light appeared, bright and white, piercing the clouds. The clouds twisted into a spiral as the water erupted upward. From that roaring storm a colossal figure emerged. It was a machine, older than any civilization. Its surface covered in glowing blue patterns that pulsed like veins. Its eyes, if they could be called eyes, opened and looked straight into the sky, straight at the alien armada. For a long moment, no one spoke. The machine raised its head and the air around it shimmered. Admiral Zylar's officers froze in terror. "What is that thing?" one whispered. The Admiral's mouth went dry. He could not answer. Down in Nevada, Rhodes finally spoke. "They thought Earth was defenseless," he said softly. But they were wrong. The signal from Earth's core grew stronger, echoing through every radio, every scanner, every alien ship. And in that moment, far above the blue world they thought they could conquer, the invaders realized too late. They had awoken something that was never meant to be disturbed. Something ancient. Something waiting. The stars outside seemed to flicker as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The Sentinel had begun to wake. The alien armada floated like a metal storm above Earth, confident that their victory was near. The first wave of the attack had gone perfectly. Earth's defenses were gone, their satellites destroyed, and their communication systems dead. Admiral Zylar stood proudly at the center of his command bridge, his silver uniform reflecting the glow of the holographic screens. "The planet is silent," he said with a satisfied smirk. "They have accepted their fate." His crew nodded, their voices filled with arrogance. To them, humanity was finished. But far below the clouds, something was happening, something none of them could explain. In the Nevada base, the ground shook softly as the strange pulse from Earth's core continued to spread. Dr. Elena Ward stood near a large circular console, eyes wide as she studied the data flickering across the screens. "The readings are off the charts," she said. "It's like the entire planet is alive." General Rhodes watched silently. His face was calm, but his hands were tight behind his back. "Keep monitoring," he said. "Whatever this is, it's reacting to them." Above the planet, small alien cruisers began to patrol the upper atmosphere. They were hunting for any remaining human resistance, firing at anything that moved. One ship detected strange movement near the Arctic and went in for a closer look. The crew laughed as they saw only ice and snow. "Pathetic world," one pilot said. "Cold, weak, and full of fear." But suddenly the scanner began to glitch. The temperature dropped fast, too fast. A bright flash appeared under the ice, and before the pilot could react, the entire ship vanished in a blue burst of light. When the Admiral received the report, he didn't believe it. "Vanished? Without impact?" he said sharply. The communications officer nodded nervously. "Yes, Admiral. No explosion, no wreckage. It's like it was never there." Zylar's red eyes narrowed. "Send another ship to investigate." Within minutes, another cruiser approached the same area, and the same thing happened. A second burst of light, a second ship gone. The Admiral felt his confidence tremble. "Cut the investigation. Pull them back," he ordered. "Something on that planet is reacting to us." Meanwhile, strange events began unfolding across Earth. In the skies over Asia, people saw bright patterns forming in the clouds, symbols that glowed like ancient runes. In Africa, a radio tower picked up whispers in a language no one understood. And near the Pacific Ocean, the water temperature started rising rapidly. Fish fled to the surface, and sailors at sea reported hearing a deep mechanical sound echoing through the waves, like the heartbeat of a giant. Inside the Nevada base, alarms suddenly screamed. "General, look at this!" Dr. Elena shouted. On the main screen, a massive object appeared on the ocean floor. Its shape was irregular, metallic, and larger than any known structure. "It wasn't there before," she said breathlessly. "It's moving." General Rhodes stepped closer. "Is it alive?" he asked. Elena hesitated. "It's not biological, but it's generating energy like a living being." Admiral Zylar's bridge was filled with confusion. "Energy readings are rising from the planet's surface," his technician reported. "The signal is ancient, Admiral. It doesn't match human technology." Zylar slammed his hand against the control panel. "Ancient? What do you mean, ancient?" The technician's voice shook. Older than our oldest records, sir. Possibly pre-galactic age. Before anyone could react, the first wave of interference hit. Every alien screen flickered. The ship's artificial gravity failed for a moment. The stars outside blurred as a strange vibration spread through space itself. Then out of nowhere, a blue ripple of light burst upward from Earth, passing through every ship in orbit. The Admiral's crew screamed as systems short-circuited. "Shields offline," one officer shouted. "Weapons malfunctioning," another cried. "The signal, it's rewriting our systems." On Earth, Dr. Elena could hardly believe what she was seeing. "It's communicating," she whispered. "That signal, it's sending data into orbit." General Rhodes frowned. "To their ships?" "No," she said, shaking her head. Through them, the pulse grew stronger. Alien ships began losing control, spinning wildly in orbit. Some collided with each other, creating fiery explosions that lit up the sky. Zylar gritted his teeth. "Fire on the source. Destroy the planet if you have to," he shouted. His officers obeyed, launching energy beams toward the Earth's surface. But the beams never hit. They vanished mid-air as if swallowed by invisible walls. Down below, the oceans churned violently. A deep roar echoed from beneath the waves, shaking cities on the coast. In Tokyo, people screamed as the sea level rose unnaturally. In Hawaii, military radars picked up massive movement beneath the ocean floor. "It's coming up," said one officer in disbelief. "Something huge is rising from the deep." General Rhodes and Dr. Elena watched as their monitors filled with light. "Whatever it is," Rhodes said slowly, "it's not alien and it's not human." Elena's hands trembled. "Then what is it?" she asked softly, and then the world saw it. The sea exploded upward, forming a towering column of water and steam. From the center of that chaos, a colossal structure rose, metallic, glowing, and alive. Its size dwarfed cities. Blue lines of energy ran across its surface, forming patterns like veins. The Sentinel had awakened. Its massive eyes opened, releasing a blinding blue light that reached all the way to the stars. In orbit, every alien ship froze. The scanners went blank. Silence filled the void. Admiral Zylar felt something he had not felt in centuries: fear. He stepped back as the massive shape reflected in his viewport. What have we done?" he whispered. The light from Earth grew brighter, spreading across the fleet like dawn breaking through the night. And as that impossible machine fully rose from the ocean, the Admiral finally understood. Earth had not been defenseless. It had been waiting. The world had changed overnight. Oceans trembled, skies glowed, and deep beneath the waves something ancient had opened its eyes. Humanity stood on the edge of wonder and terror, not yet understanding what had truly awakened. Across the globe, people stared at their screens, watching live footage of the impossible. A massive metallic being rising from the Pacific, its surface covered in glowing blue veins of energy. Some believed it was a god. Others thought it was the end of the world. But one thing was clear: it was alive. From orbit, Admiral Zylar's fleet drifted in uneasy silence. His once arrogant officers now whispered nervously among themselves. Every scan, every reading they took gave the same impossible result. The energy signature coming from Earth's oceans was billions of years old, older than their own civilization, older than their star maps. Zylar's second-in-command turned to him, his voice low. "Admiral, this thing, it's not human. It predates us all." Zylar clenched his jaw. "Nothing predates us," he snapped, though doubt flickered in his eyes. "It's just a machine, and machines can be destroyed." He ordered his ships to open fire. Thousands of energy blasts rained down through the atmosphere, striking the ocean around the colossal figure. Water exploded into steam. Lightning danced across the sky, but when the smoke cleared, the being still stood untouched. Then it moved. Slowly, almost lazily, it lifted one arm toward the heavens. Blue light gathered around its core, spinning faster and faster until the clouds above began to swirl. The energy grew blinding, and before anyone could react, a wave of light burst outward, sweeping across the planet. In that instant, every alien ship flickered. Systems failed. Weapons went offline. Entire fleets drifted powerless in space. Panic filled the comm channels. "Our power grids are down. Engines not responding." "Admiral, the fleet!" Zylar slammed his fist into the control panel. "Regain control now." But deep down he knew this was no ordinary attack. This was something different. The light didn't just destroy technology, it erased it. Circuits melted into dust as though time itself had decayed them. Down on Earth, the Nevada base shook from the energy surge. Dr. Elena Ward stumbled, holding onto her console. "General!" "It's broadcasting again, stronger than before," she shouted. General Rhodes stared at the screens, watching the signal spread through the solar system. "It's not just a weapon," he said slowly. "It's a message." "What kind of message?" Elena asked. The general looked grim. "A warning." At that moment, the base's monitors flickered to life. Strange symbols appeared, curving lines, glowing runes that twisted and reshaped themselves into a language no human could read. Then through the static came a voice, deep, mechanical, and ancient. It spoke only one phrase, but the words echoed in every human mind across the world. "Do not disturb the Sentinel." The room went silent. Elena's hands trembled. "Sentinel," she whispered. "That's what it calls itself." In orbit, the message repeated across every alien frequency. Admiral Zylar's crew froze, staring at the words on their screens. Some began to panic, others whispered prayers in fear. Zylar's anger turned to desperation. "It's bluffing," he roared. "No machine commands the Empire. Prepare the Doomsday Cannon!" The Doomsday Cannon was the pride of the Armada, a weapon capable of destroying a moon with one shot. It took several minutes to charge, its energy core glowing with a blinding red hue. Zylar watched as the cannon locked onto Earth's coordinates. "Fire!" he commanded coldly. The cannon unleashed its fury. A massive red beam shot toward the planet, tearing through clouds and sky. For a few seconds it seemed unstoppable. But just as it neared the surface, the beam bent, curved upward as if the air itself had deflected it. The energy recoiled back toward space, striking one of the Armada's own battleships. The explosion was so powerful it ripped several ships apart instantly. The shockwave sent debris flying. The Admiral's bridge went dark, his officers thrown to the floor. "What just happened?" he shouted, his technician's voice cracked with fear. "The beam was reflected, sir. It used gravity manipulation. Our weapon was turned against us." Zylar's breath came heavy. "Gravity manipulation? That's impossible." But it wasn't. On Earth, the Sentinel's eyes glowed brighter and the air above it shimmered like heat. Every human device on the planet suddenly came back online. Communications, satellites, radar, all restored but different. "It's helping us," Elena said softly. "It recognizes us." General Rhodes narrowed his eyes. "Or it's choosing sides." As the day turned to night, strange storms began forming around the world. The skies burned with blue lightning, and the Sentinel stood motionless in the center of the Pacific like a guardian watching over the planet. Then out of nowhere it raised its head again, looking toward the stars, toward something beyond human sight. Admiral Zylar noticed it too. "It's not looking at us anymore," he whispered. "It's looking out there." From the edge of the solar system, new readings appeared. Massive energy signatures, cold and ancient. The same kind of energy that powered the Sentinel. But these were darker, hungrier. Dr. Elena's voice shook as she read the data. "General, something's responding. The signal from the Sentinel, it woke others." Rhodes turned to her. "Others, you mean more of them?" Elena nodded slowly. "No, not Sentinels. Something else. Something it was built to stop. The Admiral's ships tried to re-establish order, but the fleet was scattered and broken. The void around Earth felt heavier now, the stars dimmer. Then, without warning, a deep vibration echoed through every ship, every base, every human heart. A single word appeared across every screen in the system, written in both alien and human code. Doom. And in that chilling moment, everyone, human and alien alike, realized the same truth. The Sentinel was not the beginning of their war. It was the warning before the real one. The night sky over Earth shimmered with unnatural light. Blue currents of energy streaked through the clouds, casting ghostly reflections on the oceans below. The entire planet seemed alive, breathing, pulsing, waiting. From orbit, Admiral Zylar watched in disbelief as the monstrous figure, the Sentinel, rose higher from the Pacific. Its immense form dwarfed mountains, its glowing veins bright enough to be seen from space. Around it, the sea churned violently, forming spirals of light and steam. It's drawing energy from the planet itself," one of his officers whispered. "Impossible," Zylar hissed. "No construct can feed off a living world." But deep down he knew this was no ordinary machine. It was something ancient, older than memory, older than their pride. Down in the Nevada base, General Rhodes and Dr. Elena Ward watched the live feed in stunned silence. The Sentinel stood unmoving, yet the world trembled under its power. "It's stabilizing the magnetic field," Elena said slowly, studying the data. "It's fixing what we broke." Rhodes frowned. "Fixing or preparing?" Elena didn't answer. Her eyes remained locked on the screen as she whispered, "General, what if it's not here to destroy, but to defend?" Rhodes turned toward her. "Defend who? Us?" Before she could reply, a deafening explosion filled the monitors. In orbit, part of the alien fleet had opened fire again, desperate and panicked. Bright red energy bolts streaked through space, raining down on the Sentinel like meteor fire. The ocean boiled around it, steam rising to the heavens. For a few seconds, the massive figure disappeared in the smoke. The aliens cheered too soon. The clouds glowed from within, and then with a thunderous sound that echoed across the entire planet. The Sentinel unleashed its fury. A sphere of blue light expanded outward from its core, passing through the atmosphere and into orbit. The wave was silent, but its effect was devastating. Half of the Armada's ships flickered and went dark instantly. Their engines failed, their weapons disintegrated, and their hulls began to decay as if time itself was eating them alive. "Our fleet, it's gone," one of the alien captains shouted. "Something's draining our power." Zylar gritted his teeth. "Counter it!" "Reverse polarity." But nothing worked. The wave stripped them bare. Every line of code, every machine, every ounce of pride. On Earth, cities that had been plunged into darkness suddenly lit up again. Power grids came back online. Communication signals returned. Humanity could see everything. The collapsing alien fleet, the glowing figure in the ocean, and the unimaginable power protecting their world. The people didn't understand what it was, but they knew one thing. Earth was no longer helpless. In the Nevada base, Dr. Elena's voice trembled. "It's controlling electromagnetic fields on a planetary scale," she said. "It's rewriting the atmosphere." Rhodes narrowed his eyes. "That's not just defense. That's preparation for war." In orbit, chaos reigned. The alien fleet was falling apart, ship after ship breaking formation. Admiral Zylar shouted over the noise, "Retreat!" But before his command could reach the others, a massive gravitational surge hit the fleet. Their ship spun out of control, dragged toward the planet by invisible hands. Through the viewports, the Admiral saw the Sentinel raising its arm again, pointing directly toward the sky. A low hum began to vibrate through the void, a sound ancient and powerful, like the universe itself was resonating in fear. From its chest, beams of light erupted, striking through the atmosphere with pinpoint precision. The first beam tore through an alien dreadnought, slicing it cleanly in half. The second disintegrated an entire squadron. The third missed. It didn't hit a ship. Instead, it shot straight into the dark of space, toward the moon. At first, no one understood why. But then the moon flared bright. Hidden structures long buried beneath its surface began to glow crimson. "There's something there," Elena whispered, watching the data scroll across her screen. "A base, maybe more." Rhodes turned sharply. "A command station?" "Yes," she said. "That's where their central control is located." Up in orbit, Zylar's expression twisted in horror. "No," he breathed. "How did it—" He never finished. The Sentinel's beam intensified, slicing through the moon's surface like a blade through glass. A shockwave of light burst outward, shaking both space and Earth's skies. Moments later, the moon split, cracks of molten light crawling across its surface before a massive explosion ripped it apart. The alien command base was gone, erased. Silence followed. Even the stars seemed dimmer. The remaining alien ships floated helplessly, systems dead, their morale shattered. Zylar could only stare at the fragments of the moon, rage and fear warring in his heart. "That thing destroyed our command," he muttered. "An entire fortress gone." On Earth, the Sentinel lowered its arm slowly, its glowing body fading slightly. The storm above the ocean began to calm, the waves settling as though the world itself sighed in relief. In the Nevada base, Elena and Rhodes exchanged glances. "It's stopping," she said quietly. "Maybe it's over." Rhodes shook his head. "No, look at it." The Sentinel's eyes were still burning bright blue, focused not on Earth but on the stars beyond. "It's waiting," Rhodes said. "For what?" Elena asked. "For something worse." At that exact moment, far beyond the solar system, deep in the black void, something stirred. A ripple moved across the stars as if space itself had taken a breath. The remnants of an ancient power, older than the Sentinel, had felt the disturbance. Admiral Zylar's communications officer gasped as new signals appeared on the sensors. "Admiral, multiple energy readings incoming. Enormous ones." Zylar's face drained of color. "From where?" "From the edge of the galaxy, sir," the officer whispered. "They're responding to the Sentinel's activation signal." Rhodes stared at the monitor in silence as the readings grew stronger. Elena's voice was barely audible. "General," whatever it woke up, "it's coming here." The stars flickered again, and somewhere in the infinite dark, a deep echoing hum filled the void, the kind of sound that carried across worlds, through time itself. The Sentinel looked upward, its blue light intensifying. It knew what was coming. It remembered the war that once ended civilizations. And now that ancient doom was returning. Far beyond the shattered moon, silence lingered for only a moment before the universe began to stir again. The Sentinel stood motionless in the Pacific, its glowing body reflecting across the endless waves. The storm had ended, but the air still hummed with static energy, as if the planet itself had been rewired. In every city, power was restored, communication signals returned, and humanity looked up at the night sky in awe. No one could truly grasp what had just happened, how Earth, a world thought defenseless, had destroyed an entire alien fleet and split the moon itself. But while the people celebrated, those who knew better, General Rhodes, Dr. Elena Ward, and even Admiral Zylar, understood the truth. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. In the Nevada base, screens flickered with faint blue light. Dr. Elena leaned forward, eyes wide with disbelief. "General," she whispered, "there's something inside the Sentinel's energy core. Data, memory logs maybe." Rhodes turned to her, his voice steady but heavy. "Show me." She tapped rapidly on the console, decoding the faint patterns of light. Then the symbols began to shift, forming shapes and images, flashes of a long-forgotten war, ancient fleets clashing in deep space, stars burning out, planets crumbling into dust, and at the center of it all, hundreds of sentinels fighting side by side against something vast, something formless and black. Elena's face turned pale. "These are memories," she said softly. "This thing has seen the end of galaxies." Rhodes frowned. "What were they fighting?" She hesitated, zooming in on one of the fragmented images. The screen displayed a swirling mass of darkness, alive yet shapeless like a storm made of shadows. "It's called the Null," she said, reading from the alien symbols. "A living void. It consumed entire systems. The Sentinels were created to stop it." Rhodes's voice dropped. "And they failed?" The room fell silent. Outside, thunder rumbled even though the skies were clear. The Sentinel's blue eyes dimmed slightly as if it had heard them. Then, without warning, the holographic screens flickered again. A new symbol appeared, one that hadn't been there before. Elena's heart raced. "General, this one's different." "It's a warning message." The words translated slowly into English across the display. "Protocol, extinction reset." Rhodes stared at the text. "Reset?" he repeated. "What does that mean?" Elena swallowed. "It means if the Null returns, everything that can host life will be purged, to prevent its spread." Before Rhodes could respond, the ground shook violently. The lights dimmed, alarms blared. "What now?" he barked. The technician's voice trembled. "A gravitational spike directly beneath us." Elena looked at her readings in disbelief. "It's not from the Sentinel. It's from the planet's core, thousands of miles away." The Sentinel's head slowly turned toward the Nevada desert. It raised one massive hand and the ocean began to swirl once again. "It's activating something," Elena shouted. "Something underground." High above Earth, Admiral Zylar's remaining ships floated in scattered formation, their systems only partially restored. His face was pale and weary, the pride long gone. "We've lost too many," his officer whispered. "Half the fleet is gone, sir. The rest are damaged beyond repair." Zylar stared out at the glowing planet below. "No, we've lost everything," he said softly. "This world, it's not prey. It's a weapon." Then something strange appeared on their long-range scanners, structures rising across Earth's surface. Massive rings of light buried deep in deserts and oceans were activating one by one. Multiple energy readings, Admiral, the officer said. They're connecting to the Sentinel's core. Zylar's voice hardened. Those aren't structures. Those are part of a network. Back in Nevada, the holographic projection of Earth lit up with glowing lines, forming a grid across the entire planet. Elena's fingers shook as she traced the pattern. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's a planetary defense web. There's not just one Sentinel. There were hundreds, maybe thousands, each world guarded by one. We were chosen." Rhodes looked at her sharply. Chosen for what? Before she could answer, the base's speakers crackled to life. A deep mechanical voice filled the room, the same one that had once warned, "Do not disturb the Sentinel." But this time it spoke clearly in English. Seed world confirmed. Containment system online. Preparing for counter-threat. The humans froze. Elena's eyes widened. "It's talking to us. Counter-threat?" Rhodes repeated. "Against what?" The voice continued. "Residual infection detected in orbit. Initiating purge." "Orbit?" Elena whispered. Her blood ran cold. "It means the alien fleet." Up above, Admiral Zylar barely had time to react. The sky below him turned bright, blue as beams of light shot upward from Earth, hundreds of them, piercing through the clouds and into space. "Incoming energy spikes," shouted one of his officers. The Admiral spun toward the window and saw the beams hit. In seconds, the remaining ships disintegrated, their hulls breaking apart like ash in the wind. Zylar's ship trembled, alarms blaring. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. But it was too late. A blinding flash filled the bridge. The last thing Zylar saw was Earth, glowing like a star. Down on the surface, the beams faded, leaving behind only silence. The Sentinel lowered its arm once more, the ocean calming around it. "It's done," Elena whispered. "It destroyed them all." Rhodes didn't answer. He stared at the glowing symbols still dancing on the screen. "Then why is it still active?" The voice returned, softer now, almost mournful. "Threat contained. Awaiting further instruction." Elena swallowed hard. "It's waiting for us, General." He turned to her slowly. "Or maybe it's waiting for the next war." Outside, thunder rumbled again. The Sentinel stood tall in the distance, its light dimming as the sun began to rise. But far beyond, in the endless void of space, something shifted, a cold, dark wave spreading through the stars. The Null had heard the call. The real threat was still on its way. In the quiet that followed the storm of destruction, Earth seemed to hold its breath. The Sentinel stood motionless in the Pacific, the waves around it finally calm. The world was silent, yet something about that silence felt wrong. Every living being could feel a strange pull in the air, like the planet itself was waiting for something. Dr. Elena Ward sat alone in the control room, staring at the data still streaming from the Sentinel. "It's not shutting down," she murmured. "It's listening." General Rhodes entered, his heavy boots echoing through the empty corridor. "Listening to what?" he asked. Elena didn't answer right away. She pointed at the holographic display hovering in front of her, a faint, rhythmic signal pulsing from deep space. "This pattern started right after the purge," she said quietly. "It's not from us, it's an answer." Rhodes frowned, crossing his arms. "From who?" Before she could speak, the signal grew louder, the rhythm turning into a steady heartbeat. Then the power flickered. The lights dimmed, monitors glitched, and the Sentinel's core began to glow again, brighter than before. Elena stepped back, fear spreading through her face. "General," she said softly. "Something's answering the Sentinel's activation." Halfway across the planet, in the frozen Arctic, the ice began to crack. Massive sheets of ice shattered like glass, and from beneath the frozen wasteland another shape began to rise. It wasn't as tall as the Pacific Sentinel, but its design was similar, sleek, ancient, and alive with blue energy veins. It stood motionless for a few seconds, then opened its eyes. Another Sentinel had awakened. Elena's voice trembled. "It's not alone." Rhodes turned to the technician. "How many?" The man's voice shook. "Energy readings from 6 continents, sir. One in the Sahara, another in Siberia, two under the ocean floor, one beneath South America. He paused, his voice fading. And the last one right under the Atlantic, Elena whispered. They've all been sleeping, waiting for the signal. The ground rumbled again as a low-frequency hum vibrated through the air. The sentinels around the planet began to sync, their blue lights pulsing in perfect rhythm. From orbit, Earth looked like a massive web of glowing energy, alive, coordinated, aware. They're forming a network, Elena said in disbelief. They're talking to each other. Rhodes looked uneasy. Is that good or bad? I don't know, she admitted. But it's not for us. Above the atmosphere, the debris of the destroyed alien fleet drifted silently. Then, slowly, the fragments began to move. Not by gravity, but by will. Invisible currents of dark energy started to swirl among them, pulling the remains together. The lights on the wreckage flickered faintly and a shadow began to form, a shape growing larger, darker, colder. The null was awakening. In space, far from any star, the darkness gathered mass. It pulsed, breathed, and began to stretch across the void. No shape, no face, only the sense of something alive, ancient and endless. The remnants of Admiral Zylar's fleet dissolved into it, their energy feeding the growing storm. Back on Earth, the Sentinels began to react. The one in the Pacific turned its head slightly toward the stars, its eyes glowing white instead of blue. It knows, Elena whispered. It can feel it coming. Then the voice returned through the speakers, deep and mechanical. Containment breach detected, seed world compromised. Activating Phase 2. Rhodes stepped closer to the control screen. Phase 2? What's Phase 2? The hologram shifted again, showing a new map, one that stretched beyond Earth. It displayed thousands of red dots scattered across the galaxy, each one flickering weakly. Elena's eyes widened. Those are other seed worlds, she said. Other planets like ours. The Sentinels weren't just built for Earth, they were built everywhere. Rhodes looked at the glowing map, his voice low. Then where are the others? Elena zoomed in on the nearest red dot, but it flickered once, then vanished. Another one disappeared, and another. Within seconds, half the dots on the map had gone dark. They're dying, she whispered. The null is spreading again. Can we stop it? Rhodes asked. Elena shook her head slowly. We couldn't stop it before. The Sentinels failed last time. Outside, the Pacific Sentinel began to move again, its body rising higher from the water. Waves crashed around it, lightning flared above, and the clouds began to spiral. It's doing something, Rhodes shouted. Elena watched in awe. It's building a gateway. A beam of pure white energy shot upward from the Sentinel's core, piercing through the atmosphere into space. The other Sentinels responded instantly, their own beams joining it, forming a vast lattice of light stretching beyond the planet. They're opening a portal, Elena said breathlessly. Rhodes looked at her sharply. To bring the fight to it? She hesitated. Or to bring something here. The screens in the command center began to flash uncontrollably. Symbols scrolled faster than the human eye could follow. The power surged, lights flickered, and the ground shook violently. The system's overloading, a technician shouted. Then, in the chaos, the voice of the Sentinel filled the air once more, calm and cold. The null approaches. Protocol requires host species to choose, fight or purge. The room went dead silent. Elena turned slowly to Rhodes. It's asking us to decide the fate of our own world. Rhodes looked up at the glowing sky outside, the Sentinel's beam cutting through the heavens like a sword. He clenched his fists. Then we give it our answer, he said. We fight. The Sentinel's eyes flared bright blue, its voice echoing like thunder. Acknowledged. From deep within the ocean, the other Sentinels roared in unison, their lights blazing like stars. The beams grew brighter, connecting, locking onto the swirling void above the planet. The battle for survival, no longer just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy, was about to begin. The beams of light stretched farther than the human eye could, slicing through the atmosphere and vanishing into the darkness of space. The world below glowed with ethereal blue energy as the Sentinels fully awakened, their ancient network pulsing in unity for the first time in eons. The ocean boiled around the Pacific Sentinel, waves crashing against its towering form, while lightning spiraled through the clouds above. Humanity watched from every continent, through windows, through broken satellites, through fear, realizing that Earth had become the heart of something far beyond its understanding. In the Nevada Control Center, alarms screamed and lights flickered, but Dr. Elena Ward barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the main display, which now showed a swirling vortex of darkness forming at the edge of the solar system. It looked like a storm made of shadows, pulling in asteroids, wreckage, and even light itself. "That's it," she whispered. "That's the null." General Rhodes leaned forward, his face grim. "How long until it reaches us?" "Hours," she replied, her voice trembling. "Maybe less. It's feeding on everything in its path." Rhodes turned toward the window, staring at the glowing horizon. "Then we have to stop it before it gets here." Outside, the Sentinel began to move again. Its eyes burned white, and its chest opened slightly, revealing a spinning sphere of pure light, the same power it had used to destroy the alien fleet. But this time the energy was stronger, sharper, like the planet itself was pouring everything it had into this single act. The other Sentinels across the world mirrored its motion, aligning perfectly, their energy cores glowing brighter than the sun. "They're preparing for a unified strike," Elena said, her fingers dancing over the console. "If they fire together, they might create a barrier strong enough to contain the null." Rhodes nodded. "Do it." But the Sentinel didn't move at her command. Instead, a deep, ancient voice filled the air once more. "Humanity is not authorized to command the defense system. Awaiting confirmation, fight or purge." Elena froze. "It's asking again." Rhodes clenched his jaw. "We already chose. We fight." Confirmation recorded, locking planetary defenses. The lights across Earth flared, and a tremor rolled through the ground. Volcanoes erupted across the Pacific Ring of Fire, their energy drawn into the planetary network. Massive arcs of electricity leaped between the Sentinels, forming a glowing web around the planet. For a moment, Earth didn't look like a planet, it looked like a weapon. Then from the void, the null arrived. It came without sound, swallowing stars as it passed. Its presence distorted space itself, bending light and pulling energy from everything nearby. The first Sentinel to face it, deep beneath the Arctic, was torn apart instantly, its light fading into nothing. The others responded in unison, launching beams of energy toward the darkness, but the null absorbed them like water into sand. Elena's voice trembled. "It's not working. It's feeding on their power." Rhodes slammed his fist against the console. "Then what can stop it?" The Sentinel in the Pacific turned its gaze toward the control center. For a moment, its glowing eyes seemed to focus directly on Elena. Then the voice spoke again, this time softer, almost human. "Key required. Human interface needed." Elena looked confused. "Human interface, you mean? It needs a pilot?" The floor shook violently. "Doctor!" Rhodes shouted as sparks rained from the ceiling. Elena stared at the hologram. The Sentinel's energy pattern was syncing with her own biometric readings. It was calling her. "It's connected to me," she whispered. "When I first activated it weeks ago, it scanned me. It knows me." Rhodes's eyes widened. "You're the key." Before he could stop her, Elena grabbed the neural interface cable and pressed it against her wrist. A surge of light shot through her body, and she gasped as her consciousness was pulled into the network. The control room around her dissolved, replaced by a vast field of stars and glowing machines stretching into infinity. She was no longer on Earth. She was inside the Sentinel system. Voices echoed around her. Human consciousness linked. Command authority granted. Outside, the Sentinel's eyes flared even brighter, its movements suddenly faster, sharper, purposeful. Through Elena, it had gained direction. "We can't fight the null with energy," she said through the comms. "It's not just matter, it's entropy. It devours order. The Sentinels must reverse their field polarity. Reverse it? Rhodes shouted. Wouldn't that destroy them? Yes, she said softly. But it'll take the Null with them. Rhodes froze. You're saying it's a suicide mission? Elena closed her eyes. If we don't, Earth dies anyway. Outside, the Sentinels shifted formation. The glowing network began to twist, the light turning from blue to white. The Null roared, its dark mass expanding to engulf them, but the Sentinels held their ground. Energy levels spiked, and the entire planet began to shake. Doctor, pull back, Rhodes shouted. You'll die. Her voice came through faintly, almost drowned by static. Tell them. We were never defenseless. The sky erupted. The Sentinels released their combined energy in a single blinding flash that stretched across space. The Null screamed, a soundless vibration that tore through reality itself. Before collapsing inward, the light consumed everything, then vanished. Silence. When the light faded, the stars returned. The Null was gone. The network had vanished. The oceans were calm again. Only the Pacific Sentinel remained, its massive frame still standing though its lights were dark. In the Nevada base, Rhodes stared at the silent monitors. Elena, he whispered. Then faintly, one signal blinked on the screen, a heartbeat. One pulse of blue light flickered from the Sentinel's core. She was still alive. And far beyond, in the cold, endless void, something else stirred, a ripple in the dark, small but growing. The Null was not destroyed, only sleeping. The true war had just begun. The silence that followed was unlike any before it, deep, absolute, almost sacred. The sky above Earth glowed faintly with the remnants of the Sentinel's light, fading like dying stars. The oceans were calm once again, the storms gone, and for a moment the planet felt at peace. But beneath that peace lay the heavy cost of survival. The world had changed forever. In the ruins of the Nevada Command Center, General Rhodes sat among broken consoles and flickering screens. Smoke curled through the air, and the distant sound of collapsing metal echoed through the halls. He rubbed his forehead, his uniform torn and blood-stained. Status report, he said hoarsely. One surviving technician turned to him, his voice weak. All global communications are down. The satellite grid's gone. Energy levels are stabilizing, but, sir, we lost contact with every other Sentinel. They're offline, dead. Rhodes stared at the blank screen in front of him. And the Pacific one? The man hesitated. Still standing. No energy readings, though. It's just there. Rhodes rose to his feet slowly. Then we start there. Half a world away in the middle of the silent Pacific, the lone Sentinel stood half submerged in the water. Its once brilliant light was gone, leaving only dull metallic armor scarred by the battle. Waves lapped gently against its chest, and for the first time it looked almost lifeless. Inside the command capsule, deep within its core, a faint light pulsed. Dr. Elena Ward's consciousness floated in a sea of static. She could feel herself suspended between worlds, one heartbeat away from the void. Voices whispered through the haze, echoes from the Sentinel network. Protocol complete. Containment achieved. Then silence, her eyes opened. For a moment she couldn't move. The chamber around her flickered with fading blue light. The neural cables were still connected to her skin, glowing weakly. Her voice cracked. Sentinel, are you there? No response. She tried to move again, her body heavy and numb. Then a faint flicker ran through the walls, and the Sentinel's deep voice returned, softer than before. Human, you live. Elena exhaled shakily. We did it, she whispered. We stopped it. The Null. Contained, but not destroyed. Her heart sank. Then it's still out there. Dormant. For now. But it will awaken again. The cycle continues. She closed her eyes. Then we'll be ready next time. The Sentinel paused. Humanity was not meant to fight this war alone. Others will come. The old worlds have heard your signal. Others? She repeated. What do you mean? Before the Sentinel could respond, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. A new hologram flickered to life in front of her, a map of the galaxy, vast and glowing. But this time, where the red dots once marked dead worlds, new lights began to appear. One after another, green signals pulsed across the stars. Elena gasped. They're responding. Yes, the surviving seed worlds. They heard the call of Earth. The network will rise again. Tears welled in her eyes. Then we're not alone. Outside, the sentinel stirred for the first time in hours. Its eyes glowed faintly blue once more, the light reflecting across the still waters. The humans who had gathered on nearby observation ships gasped in awe as the giant raised its head toward the sky. A single beam of light shot upward, soft not as a weapon this time but as a signal. In the Nevada base, Rhodes watched the faint glow appear on his radar. For the first time in days, a small smile crossed his face. "She did it," he whispered. "She's alive." The signal spread across the heavens, echoing far beyond the solar system. And somewhere, light years away, other worlds began to stir. Civilizations long thought dead, machines buried under alien suns, and lost human colonies from ancient ages past. They all heard the same message. Earth stands. But in the distant reaches of space beyond the furthest light, the darkness began to ripple again. The null, though weakened, pulsed once more, its form rebuilding, reshaping, remembering. From within that abyss a new presence emerged, vast, intelligent, and cold. It spoke without words, a thought that reached across galaxies. They awaken again. The cycle continues. On Earth, Elena stood at the edge of the Sentinel's core chamber, watching as dawn broke across the ocean surface. "We've only won the first battle," she said softly. The Sentinel's voice answered, distant but resolute. "Then we prepare for the war to come." As the sun rose, the great machine began to hum again, light flooding through its metallic veins. Across the planet, the sleeping Sentinels stirred faintly, their systems rebooting one by one. Humanity, for the first time in its history, was no longer the hunted. It was the defender of the galaxy's last hope. And far above, among the stars, a new war was already forming. The Age of Darkness was returning. But this time, Earth would not stand alone.